Welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of Kevin MD. Today in the show, we have Cindy Tsai. She is an internal medicine physician and a life coach, and she wrote the Kevin MD article, Should You Stay or Leave Medicine? Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and journey to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So ever since I was young, I wanted to become a doctor and follow in my dad's footsteps, who was a surgeon. And I'm the youngest of 4 daughters. I grew up in Taiwan in a traditional Asian household. So there were a lot of expectations, and I didn't want to be a failure and disappoint others. So I was always interested in health and wellness. And even as a kid, I'd be drinking water instead of soda or juice. And I thought medicine was the perfect way to blend all my interests to help people be healthy and well so they could enjoy their lives. And I worked really hard, trained at top schools like Hopkins and Dartmouth. And I was so focused on becoming a physician, thinking that that was going to make me happy and fulfilled. And after completing residency in internal medicine, I started working as a primary care physician. And then I realized I wasn't that happy or fulfilled. And, it's such a privilege to be a part of a patient's health journey, but I was frustrated when patients were coming in when they were really sick and in crises and often looking to medications as a Band-Aid. And I really wish I could have done something sooner to help them before they got to that point, and also look at the whole picture and the root causes so we could improve and change things for good. But I was feeling so stuck myself for all these years of training, work. Life looked good on the surface and on paper, like I did all the things, checked all the boxes, but I wasn't happy. And that's really scary to admit. And I have been going to therapy, trying different things. And it wasn't until I started working with a life coach that things really started to change and improve, because I learned so many tools and skills, was able to change my mindset, perspective. I just felt so much better because I learned how to have my own back and finally felt like I was in control of my life and not the other way around. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunities, the resources, and training in all these different modalities, whether it's mindfulness, mind, body, somatic work, that can be very effective outside of conventional medicine, that I knew I had to become a coach myself to share and help others on their journey, especially our healthcare providers, because our healers need healing too.
So you mentioned that you did clinical medicine and you realized that it wasn't quite what you expected. How long did you practice before you came to that realization?
So I was a primary care physician for about 5 years and transitioned to coaching full time.
Was there anything specific about the internal medicine job itself, the environment that you were practicing in that helped you lead to that transition to life coaching?
Definitely in primary care, there are a lot of things that you have to deal with, whether it's administrative, insurance, that kind of stuff, some limitations there, and with appointments, times, things like that. I actually really appreciated my clinic, my support staff and team. And I think what I realized was it was my own perspective of what I was thinking about my environment and people that led to my experience of medicine. And so I think that's the really important part to know, that, your environment, other people can be however, and you get to choose what you think about it, right? You get to kind of create your own experience.
And as you transition to a full-time life coach, tell me about some of the challenges that you face in making that transition from clinical medicine to being a life coach.
So I would say that the journey has been really fun in many ways, just diving into entrepreneurship. And I think in the beginning, definitely many differences from having a structured day, being a physician, right? Like in a clinic, this number of hours, these patients, to an entrepreneur where there's a lot of freedom and flexibility. But I feel like it's been such a great learning journey, just being able to meet and reach and help so many more people and to make a bigger impact. So I know I'm really lucky and just grateful for this opportunity.
So let's transition to the Kevin MD article that you wrote. It's titled, Should You Stay or Leave Medicine? Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read your article, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it?
Sure. So my article was really inspired by my own healing journey, and I wanted to offer some different perspectives and ideas to hopefully help people who are feeling stuck to see that there are other options out there. And even though the title talks about staying or leaving medicine, I want people to know that I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other, right? Like there's no judgment either way. You can have a fulfilling career in medicine or outside of medicine. And my intention and the most important thing is for you to learn how to connect with yourself and really listen to what's most important to you and live your life from that place of truth so you can really enjoy the life that you're meant to live.
Now, for those physicians who may think that medicine isn't quite right for them or not quite what they expected, go through some of the questions that you asked yourself to really help clarify what your future path would be.
Yeah, I think it was really important to really get to the why in terms of why did you pursue medicine in the first place? What's important to you, your values and priorities. And I think what was scary to me was, I had gone through my life thinking that medicine was what I was meant to do, and just that being a doctor would be very fulfilling in many ways. And then when reality didn't match up with that, that's really scary, right? And
Mhm.
I think there was definitely a lot of judgment in the beginning of myself, just being like, what are you doing, right? Like so many people would love to be in this position and just lead to. And so I think that contrast was very challenging in the beginning. And that's why I knew I needed to get help and have someone else there with me. And a coach really offered that for me to help me clarify and understand what's important to me.
When you talk about the reactions from your colleagues and family when you left clinical medicine to be a life coach, what were some examples of some of their responses?
A lot of them were just really confused and just didn't understand why I was leaving such a stable job and an environment and to pursue something that seemed very risky and just uncertain. But I think that when they saw how excited I was to pursue coaching, they saw that this was really in line with what I really wanted, and they were in support as well. And I think that's the thing, like in the beginning, when I was not totally sure of the transition, I was mindful about who I was sharing this with. And I think that's something to remember, that, it's almost like in the beginning, it's like a baby, right? You got to kind of really be careful and protect it. And then I think as you continue to become more firm in who you are and really being open about it, and then it doesn't matter as much what other people are saying, right? Because you know who you are so strongly, and they appreciate and respect that about you.
Tell me about how you started your coaching practice. How did you grow that? How did you find clients? And how did you manage that? Because there are a lot of physicians who are interested in what you're doing, and they're just, like you said, scared about straying from that linear path and steady income into something that's relatively unknown, not only from a job standpoint, but even from an economic standpoint. How did you grow your coaching practice from basically nothing?
Yeah, well, I think that there's so many great resources out there that, we're really fortunate to be in an entrepreneur in this moment in time, right? And I think for me, it's really figuring out trying different things out. I wish I could say, again, kind of like medicine, right? Have it be very linear, like, okay, do X and then, this will happen and that, and then, but you really do have to try different things so that you can figure out what feels good to you. And I think that's the most important, right? Like when you're really in your element and being authentic, and people respond to that. So, for me, I see, networking, word of mouth referrals being very helpful, and also doing speaking, presentations, webinars, and also writing articles like the one I shared on Kevin MD and Doximity and things like that. So, that's been just different ways of sharing my message. And of course, there's social media and other things. But I would say that for people who are considering being, kind of charting their own path, just know that there's no one way to do it. The one that feels good to you is going to be perfect for you. And I think sometimes the process is just learning how to listen and kind of sort through, like, is this my fear and anxiety? Is this what I really want? And just like learning how to really figure out what works for you. So it's a process, and just, I think, having fun every step of the way, and just also being open to what is.
If you were to take this journey all over again, is there anything that you would have done differently?
That's a good question. I think, I have wondered if I would still pursue medicine in terms of going through all the medical training, if ultimately, I'm kind of shifting paths. But I do think that having gone through medical training and being a physician has helped me in so many ways, and helped me in my coaching, because, you learn how to really listen and hold space for someone. So, I think that I'm just grateful that I'm here right now, and just excited to see everything that's going to be coming.
We're talking to Cindy Tsai. She's an internal medicine physician and a life coach. And she wrote the Kevin MD article, Should You Stay or Leave Medicine? Cindy, for those other physicians who may be listening to this podcast and are thinking of creating their own life coaching business, what kind of advice do you have?
So I want everyone to know and remember that you're enough, worthy, and amazing right now. Even if you're just starting, you're amazing, right, for taking that step. And remembering that you're doing great, take time to acknowledge yourself and celebrate every win, big or small, especially at the beginning stages of a business. There's so many days where it's easy to be deflated, right? When people don't respond, when people don't, whatever, all these things. And because with our human brain and negativity bias, it has a tendency to focus on the negative, right? And everything that's not working. And even though life is not about being positive and happy all the time, but through just awareness, mindfulness, coaching, you can really retrain your brain and build habits so that you'll feel better more often than not. And really learn to be kind to yourself, be open to what is, because I think when you're really attached to a certain outcome, it leads to suffering, disappointment, struggle, all these things, right? And it's not to say you shouldn't have goals, because it is important to have direction so you can live your best life. But just know that if it doesn't work out exactly, it doesn't mean that, something has gone wrong, right? There are some lessons there, and you're not a bad person. It's not like it's never going to work. So just try not to be so hard on yourself. And last but not least, I would say just have fun. I think especially when you're really creating your own business, being an entrepreneur, anything is possible, and you get to choose how you live your life. So just do what feels good to you and be present so you can enjoy every moment.
What kind of resources do you recommend for those who are interested in creating a life coaching?
So I think there are some really great books out there about mindset in terms of being an entrepreneur, and really accessing that state of abundance and sufficiency, because when you're building a business, there's so much uncertainty and unknown, right? So you really want to be open and really stay in that state of, because a lot of times it's easy to feel like, oh, everything's not working, I don't have enough, and then you get into that like rumination and shame spiral, which is never productive. So I would say it's really important to work on your own mindset and perspective, work with a coach, just really tapping into that growth mindset. And I think there's so many different resources out there, from, books to online courses and things like that. And depending on where you are in your business, there's something out there, which is the amazing thing right now, right? In the beginning, it's about really getting clear on your messaging. I love the story brand framework. And then, as you kind of grow and scale, it's making sure you have the processes in place, right, to really grow your business, and building a team, really being a leader and a visionary, and continuing to share your message, but knowing that every step of the way you always get to choose. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, the business will probably take many different iterations, and your messaging, your niche may change, and that's okay, right? Just have fun along the way.
And my final question, what's your take-home message you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
Remember that you are enough right now, and you're doing great. Really take time to acknowledge yourself, celebrate every win, and really believe in yourself and be your own best friend. Thank you.
Cindy, thank you so much for sharing your story, time, and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.